Have you ever felt this way? I would be reading someone's comments about like things they want to change. And like sometimes it would be like small sentence construction changes or something like that. I'm not going to die if I have to change the sentence construction or if you want a freaking comma here or whatever. But then like other times, like they would make comments and they're like, oh, like I felt like I missed something here, or I felt like I needed something there. And then I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, you're the only person that said it, first of all. But then second of all, I'm like, I don't want to. But then on the other hand, like sometimes they would say something and I'm like, okay, just because one person says it doesn't mean like I shouldn't take it into consideration. So I do take all my like comments into consideration. I mean, I guess you have a point, but that kind of means that I have to change things. Or like I have to change a scene or a chapter or something like that. And I'm like, am I really in the mood?
If I can read your comment and it absolutely makes sense, and I think, oh yeah, of course that's supposed to be there, then of course I'm going to go in and change something or add something. But if I go, I literally said that 2 paragraphs and you're the only person who's commented this, I leave it. Or I go back 2 paragraphs and make sure the wording is right there. But otherwise it's like, okay, I don't think you were reading carefully enough, or maybe you stopped reading between these paragraphs and you forgot what I had just said when you got to this point.
Yeah. The problem is I would go to that scene and I would change it. But then I haven't read the entire novel again, so I can't remember if I have to like put in the same kind of information in tidbits before or in tidbits later.
That's one of the reasons why I really like my in-person beta reading group. One of us will say you need to make this change, and then we talk about all the past chapters we've already read and where that can be rolled in better or world built better so it makes sense here, and all those little details that you don't have to think about it yourself. Today I'm doing kiwi strawberry juice because my strawberries are coming off my plants, so
Ooh,
strawberry.
look at you. Well, today I'm also doing fruit. So I'm doing a blueberry white tea.
Ooh.
I know, and it smells delicious.
That kind of sounds good.
Tastes like tea.
No hint of blueberry? Come on, blueberry.
Maybe if I put a blueberry in my mouth, I don't know. I guess it tastes a little bit different than your regular tea. Alrighty, are we ready for this episode?
I am so ready.
Hey ho, and let's go. Hello everyone and welcome to Tea and Tales. I'm Madeline Einau.
And I'm Sarah Sampson. Thank you everyone for tuning in each week. We especially want to thank David Acuff and Catherine Briganti Cobb. Thank you so much for joining us each week. This week, we have an author spotlight, so we're going to jump right into bringing on our special guest, debut author Rebecca Danzenbaker.
You came onto the perfect podcast because you are a tea drinker and not a coffee drinker. So welcome to Tea and Tales.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, so is my main character of Soul Match. She's also a tea drinker. She's very much not like me, but that's one characteristic we share is that I made her a tea drinker. So there's a funny scene in there where she asks for tea and she can only get coffee.
It's real life because I had to struggle through that when I went to Spain this year because apparently they didn't know what tea is.
I love little details like that though. It makes your characters feel so much more alive and it makes the world alive. It's awesome.
So first of all, we met through a writers group, Pitch to Publish, which is super exciting. I mostly follow you on Instagram. I don't know what other platforms you are on.
Pretty much all of them. Yeah.
All of them.
Yes.
I see you on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky, Pinterest. So yeah, anywhere that you follow people.
So it has been so exciting to see like this whole journey that you have been on because you are a debut author and your novel is releasing on the 29th of July.
Yay, it's happening.
Oh my goodness, that is so exciting. You used to be a music teacher.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit more about that because I love music.
Yeah, so I was a theater and show choir girly growing up. I have 2 sisters. One's a year and a half older, one's a year and a half younger. So we're all like really close in age. And they were both cheerleaders. And I was shuffled into the cheerleading world, but after like a few years of it, I was like, this is just not me. I lose my voice every time. I don't know why I have to stand with my hands on my hips. Like, it just seems so ridiculous to me. Sorry for anyone who's a cheerleader. But I was just like, I just want to read books and sing and stuff. So I started with chorus and then went to show choir and then musical theater. Because I felt like I had finally found my place, I was like, oh, I would love to give this to other people who love music as well. So I'll become a music educator. I went in thinking I would do high school music, which is where I found like my home. And then as I was getting my degree, you get certified in Virginia K to 12. I was like, you know what? I do not want to spend every single night of my life like in a high school theater doing musicals. I did not want to do that. So I was like, oh, I'll switch and I'll do elementary school music. And you guys, it was the cutest thing ever. But I got vocal notes from just singing all day long and it became painful to sing. So I was like, I cannot continue doing this because I no longer, like, I love to sing and then I just know, like, I started to hate it. I was like, okay, well, that passion is gone. I was like, okay, let me think of something else. So my career has evolved quite significantly over time. I got my master's degree in instructional education, which I somehow convinced the people at Congressional Quarterly was teaching people how to use the internet. They hired me on to be an account manager, and then I was there for 10 years. Congressional Quarterly, most people haven't heard of it unless they're in the DC area, but it is a nonpartisan news organization that basically just reports out everything Congress is doing. And they've since combined with Roll Call, which is another publication. So now it's called CQ Roll Call. I worked my way up, director of account management, and then worked for like C-level and did business analytics. When I got pregnant, I got my first like SLR camera. And so I started doing photography and fell in love with that. My kids were growing up. I didn't want to work an 8:30 to 5 job every day. I wanted to have more flexibility. I am still a full-time photographer. I've been a full-time photographer since 2013. That still brings me incredible joy. But during COVID, I had to shut down my business. It was the governor's order that non-essential businesses had to shut down. So I started having panic attacks, but I had had this idea for a novel like 10 years earlier. And I was like, well, I always said if I had time, I would write this novel. And writing Soul Match stopped the panic attacks. And I started having a lot of fun with that. And I basically just always follow my heart. Oh, I want to do this now, or I'm done with this. Let's go on. So that's kind of how Soul Match came to be, at least the first draft. It doesn't look anything like the first draft. I went through and annotated an arc over the past month, and I'm going to do like a giveaway soon on socials. And it was interesting picking out like single lines here and there, like very rare, that had survived all the way from the first draft. If it survived from the first draft, I was really proud of it. I was like, oh, that one line, it made it all the way through. I'm so proud.
I love hearing your whole story because a lot of times we think authors, they just go to school, they figure out how to write, and then they sit down and write a book. But most authors have a rich backstory ourselves of things that we learned, things that we did that we can then pull from into our books and use in our writing. With that in mind, what is your favorite part about building a story?
I feel like when I get the idea that I want to focus on, I almost like get chills and I'm like, okay, well, obviously that one struck. And it's not going to be just oh, that would be a cool story. Like it's going to be one that I really care about. So I think all the brainstorming is kind of fun, but honestly, like I think the real fun has been since I finished past pages. So like getting the manuscript done with and like seeing reader feedback and like getting like all the nice reviews, choosing an audiobook narrator was so like, I was like, I have been waiting for this for so long because I love audiobooks and I just want to hear my characters come to life. Because I had like a theater musical background, people are like, you're not going to read it? I'm like, no, there's people who do this for a living and I'm not one of them. And when I like read my manuscript aloud, I'm like, gosh, like no one wants to hear me read this. Like it would sound like someone reading a book to a child. I'd rather have a professional audiobook narrator. I wasn't even like gonna put my hat in the ring. I think things like that are really fun. Like if we have to go back to the writing process, this is weird, but I really like the copy edit stage, like sentence level edits. I get really proud of myself when I can take like a thought that's like a really sticky, like run-on sentence and like clean it up and make it really pretty. And I'm a very much a commercial writer, so the story is a quick read. But I also am really proud of myself when I can throw in just like every now and then a nice little literary sentence like, oh, that was lovely. I am a writer. I'm a real writer.
I feel the exact same way because I am terrible at descriptions and like doing those in-depth paragraph sentences. I'm definitely not a literary writer. And so for me, I'm more about the dialogue and like the characters like bantering with each other and chatting like that. So every now and then I would read my novel and I'm like, was that me? Oh my God.
I'm like, I hope people like highlight that line and they realize it was so beautiful.
As an author, I think you always have like specific lines that you just love. This novel,
So much.
so much. So that is a young adult dystopian novel. Do you write young adult in general, and then dystopian was just this specific novel that you wanted to do, or do you just do young adult dystopian?
I still think of myself in my head as this like young person who's really unsure of themselves. So I watch like a lot of like the Summer I Turned Pretty and stuff like that. Like I love really angsty stories, and I feel like you can really get that with those like high-powered teen emotions. And I love that teenagers are sort of forced into change. Like they cannot stop the change from coming. They have to make some sort of transition when they get past high school. And all of that is very anxiety ridden. And there's first of everything, which creates these really powerful, fun moments. So I'm always probably going to be a YA writer. Like I feel like I have, even while I'm speaking, like I feel like I have a very YA voice. I've written 4 manuscripts. So I wrote first Soul Match. And that was because I had this idea, like, now 15 years ago or 10 years before I wrote it. And I got that idea shortly after reading Hunger Games for the first time. And then after I read Hunger Games, I started reading all the dystopia that came out after. So Ember and the Ashes, Divergent, like all the ones. But after I wrote Soul Match, you know, as it goes on submission, like I had the agent, we're on submission, I was on submission forever. People tell you, write something completely different. So my second manuscript that I wrote is like a YA romance that's contemporary. It's like High School Musical meets Stephen King's Carrie. So that one's really fun. I love that. That's definitely my self-insert story. That was kind of like, oh, I just have this one story I really have to tell. And there, it draws a lot from my like experiences as a teenager myself. A year later, I wrote another manuscript, also YA contemporary romance. It's like a private school retelling of The Wizard of Oz, or kind of roughly inspired by The Wizard of Oz. And then, but I got a 2-book deal, and I was like, oh, do you think they'll want one of these other 2 manuscripts for my second book? Because they're already written. That would be lovely. And my agent was like, I don't think so. If they set up all this marketing and publicity as a dystopian author, they're going to want something similar. And you're going to have the same fan base, so they're going to want something similar from you. So I was like, okay. I had some ideas. I pitched them to my agent. She picked out one in particular, and I started drafting that. And then once I had 50 pages and a pretty solid synopsis, we sent that to my editor and pitched that as my second novel. It's going to be dystopian, but Soul Match is like 200 years in the future. My second one's like 20 years in the future. It's going to feel a lot more like this could happen any minute. I'm still waiting to hear feedback on that manuscript, so I haven't gotten my edit notes on that yet. But for now, it's called Predictable, which I love because I think it's going to create some great conversations around whether or not the novel is predictable, and can you still enjoy or have fun with something that is predictable. But anyway, like it's basically like the development of AI can predict your future to an extent, and then you get a predictability rating on whether or not you stick with everything that's forecasted, because then companies can then better decide what products to purchase or what entertainment to invest in, because people are acting predictably. You get some rewards if you're really predictable, but then you get dinged if you're not. So you might not be allowed into certain places if you're unpredictable. So things like that.
That's really quite awesome, because I have heard people say many times, you know, write what you are writing, write something completely different from what you're writing. And I think both have value, because if the agents aren't picking what you're writing now, do something different and they might pick that. And later in your career, you could bring out these other things that are different. But to remember that they also want to build that base for you.
I always look at like deals that are made and they're like, oh, it's a 4-book deal, it's a 2-book deal. And my brain said, if someone has a 4-book deal, I automatically just assume that this person is writing a series. So can you explain to me personally what a 2-book deal means?
I do think it's rare to get a multi-book deal when you have a standalone. The original deal was just for 1 book. But my agent was like, I'm going to push for a 2-book deal because I want to ensure they're invested in your long-term career. I want to ensure that they're going to continue to promote you. So if, they have more money in the game, but also like we have to continue working with this person. So we're going to ensure that it's a great working relationship overall. Agents do make a commission, but this is one reason to have an agent. Like, she paid for her commission and then some by negotiating up not only the offer for 1 book, but then a total of 2 books. And then she negotiated down the number of books I have to sell to get to the next level of commission on book sales. So like things like that agents can work with. So I'm a big proponent of making sure you have a great agent who knows the industry, who knows what she's doing or he's doing. She pushed for that 2-book deal just to ensure that I had a little bit more longevity with Simon & Schuster. I love my team. I love my publicist. I love my editor there. The marketing team is really fun. Like, I did get to go to New York and meet some of the people that are working on my book, and it was just so kind, so fun to like hear them say all these kind things about Soul Match, and like their enthusiasm for it is like, oh, you like it too. Then I also know people who got a 2-book deal and it was a series. Soul Match was originally intended to be a 2-book series, but my agent, after she acquired it, had me combine it into 1. That's why it took 6 months for that first revision, because I took everything I'd planned for the second book and moved it in to the first.
We're like, but this is a standalone novel. How come she's saying she has a 2-book deal? And now I get it. They want a second book out of you and you get to pick what it is. That's really neat to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it was super open-ended, but writing the second novel, and you probably have heard this before, is a completely different experience from the first. Like, the first one, I was really writing it for myself to just entertain myself during COVID. The second one, you're writing with the expectation that it's going to be as good as the final product of this book that I've been working on for 5 years. Like, can I draft something in a 3 months that is going to be like stand up to this book that I am obsessed with? It's really stressful, and I have to keep reminding myself, like, I am going to get an edit letter. It's not going to be perfect. I am going to have to rewrite significant chunks of it. I've been waiting for my edit letter forever now because I submitted it in February. My editor has been taking like some unplanned leave. So I'm just like, it's fine. I've got a lot going on too. And I'm just focusing on marketing Soul Match while I'm waiting. But there's also this like anxiety hanging over me of like, any minute now, I'm going to get this edit letter.
So for our authors and writers who might not know, so you talk about an edit letter. So is that basically like you getting feedback from your editor from the pages that you sent them?
Yes. So, for example, with Soul Match, when it was acquired, this was not the norm, but I didn't have a call ahead of time with the editor, so I didn't know what changes she was anticipating. We just got the deal sent to us in my agent's inbox. So it wasn't contingent upon me making certain changes. And then a few months later, I received an 8-page letter, single-spaced, with all of the suggestions. And I call them suggestions because that's what they are. The bulk of the edits, which was interesting to me, was we need more internal dialogue and we need more emotion. A lot of the things that I had actually taken out to get my manuscript like tighter and like more condensed, I then had to add back in. So she was like, we want to feel everything that Savan is feeling. So we need to make sure that we're in her head and we understand that the decisions she's making. It was acquired at 94,000 words. It's going to print at like 125. So that was a huge increase.
Wow.
But also I rewrote a significant amount of the plot. I don't know if I even told you about what So Much is about, but like you have to report to the government on your 18th birthday to find out who you were in your past lives and if you have a soulmate. And then those results are published for the world to see and judge. So you're constantly judged by the mistakes of your past lives. You cannot escape them, but good souls get rewards. So you can, get a scholarship to a college. You could be recruited by this fancy schmancy organization if you are a top businessman, things like that. So my main character, she gets results that she has a lot of trouble coming to terms with, and it kind of propels her into insta fame. In the version that was acquired, she goes to college and sort of like in hiding. So she escapes. She tries to get away from her destiny, and she tries to pretend to be somebody else. And then it comes back to the whole dystopian thing. And my editor pointed out, like, we're basically dystopian and then contemporary and then dystopian. So can we change the middle so that she doesn't go to college? And I was like, okay, like, let's give it a try. And I loved it. Like, I've never met a revision I didn't love. Like, as much as like it crushes me to get an edit letter where it's like, you did this wrong, which of course she never says. Like, she's always like, I love this, this is amazing. How about if what if we tried this? And at the end of the day, she was always right. And there were like two things that I was like, no, like I really want to keep this, and I would justify it, and she was like, look at your book, you don't have to take any of the suggestions that I'm offering. Like, if it feels right to you, then just keep it in there. And I'd be like, but I want you to think it's right too. So I would kind of like internalize her feedback. For example, there's one character she wanted me to cut from Soul Match that I was like, no, she has to be there for these 7 reasons. And she's like, okay. I was like, but I want her to work. Like, I don't want her to just like come in and then come out. Like, I want her to like really have a pivot point for my character. Like, I want her to like influence the plot and the character growth. So I continued to work on her through developmental revisions until it felt like she was necessary and not just a plot device. The developmental edit letter is incredibly stressful, but it is a really wonderful way of like looking at your manuscript through someone else's eyes and kind of like coming around to like, okay, it can be better. And it is like, it's so much better. Like, after my second round of developmental edits, I burst into tears, and I was so proud of myself because I didn't think I could write a novel that exciting.
I love hearing that story because that reminds us that getting feedback at all is hard, because it's not going to come back saying, oh, it's perfect, and just put it out there. And so being able to figure out how to deal with that. But you said something that I want to put on a shirt now, and I want to make it like the quote, I never met a revision I didn't like.
Yeah.
And I feel like that advice she gave you of, these are just suggestions, let's work through it, makes that statement so true. And I'm like, I just need to put that somewhere and remind myself that revisions are meant to be liked and are meant for you to enjoy them. Now, I've heard from other people that once you have an agent and you have your publishing deal and you're working on next novels, all the things you're talking about, that it changes your writing schedule and your ability to keep the pace of writing. How have you seen your writing patterns change before you had your agent and book deals and after?
I think the biggest thing is being on deadline, which is really hard. Like, before, I had control over my own timelines on things. Like, my agent wasn't sitting there waiting for me. She would be like, take whatever time you need. When it's ready, it's ready. But with my editor, like, yeah, it's very much like, you just need to fit this in with your life. And get this to us by this time. Now, there was only one time where I actually like pushed back. I was given past pages in mid to late December, and it was like, can you get this back to us in 3 days? And I was like, no, like, I'm Christmas shopping. I have holiday parties to go to. There's no way I can sit with this and like go through the manuscript and figure out what sentences need to be fixing before we go to, the next round. So I was like, can you please like give me a little more time? And so they extended my deadline. things like that. But like for the most part, it's like finding ways to still run my photography business, help my kids. They both do theater. So I like volunteer with their program, and then being a mom and seeing friends, like all these things, like staying healthy. Like, can I get outside today and go for a walk? All of that is a luxury when you're on deadline. So that's been really hard. And I think it's hard mentally too, because you just get this to this level of exhaustion, which I think is why I burst into tears at the end of the second developmental edit. Not only was it like taxing on my brain because I was having to redo all these scenes, there's tons of plot twists in Soul Match. Like, and if I have to like put one elsewhere, then I have to figure out how to not have my house of cards fall down. It's hard on you physically. Like I'm sitting in a chair all day. Like my back starts hurting, you know, things like that. So I got a walking desk for Christmas so I can like walk and type at the same time, just so I can like get some exercise. I know, it's the best thing ever.
Oh my gosh, I want that. But you have a book deal with one of the big five publishers, which is super exciting. Like, oh my goodness. So Soul Match was out on submission. And how many publishing companies reached out to you or accepted your proposal?
It's kind of hard to say like how many rounds of submission I went on. My agent's a little different where she doesn't just send it out. She arranges a phone call with each editor that she submits to, and then she sends it to their inbox just to kind of like build some hype and excitement around it instead of just like throwing it to their inbox, to ensure that it's going to be a good fit from the beginning. She probably sent it to like 13 in the first round, but I would say the first round actually was more like over a year. You know, maybe like a year after submission, I'm like, all right, let me take another look at it. It's been a while. Let me look at it with fresh eyes. Here's a new revision. Try this one. I think total, honestly, I think it went to 23-ish, something like that, before it was scooped up. So that last round was like 5 editors, 4 or 5. And like a month after she sent it to the editor, we had a book deal. So it was like pretty fast once we found the right person. My agent had checked in with her like 4 days before the offer hit my inbox, and the editor just said she was enjoying it. She didn't indicate that it was going to acquisitions, anything like that. But I think they do that on the editorial side to try to prevent an auction. We don't want them to know an offer's coming. Like, we'll just kind of hold back on our enthusiasm for it. And then my agent did follow up with some of the others, and you know, we just got the one offer, but then she made a nice deal for me. So it was great.
And I can see somebody like Simon and Schuster, the big 5 people who are like, keep it close to your chest, because if this goes to auction, it's a big deal because it can go wild. And if they really want something, they don't want that chance to lose it to another big 5 company or somebody else who's like, wait, they're interested in it? Now I want to be interested.
Yeah, we would get such incredible feedback from the editors she sent it to, but it was either too close to something they were already working on, which I find a little bit like, I doubt it. But now I think for the most part, it was dystopian. And we called it speculative. Like, I learned how to pitch the book to not make it sound dystopian because dystopian wasn't selling for the longest time. So it was either going to be grounded sci-fi or light sci-fi or speculative, la la la. Like we played around with our categorization of the genre. It was called a speculative romance in the publisher's marketplace thing.
Very interesting. I can't say I've ever heard of speculative romance before.
Yeah. So speculative is kind of like the broader range.
Yeah, well, speculative fiction, it covers everything from sci-fi to fantasy to it covers a whole broad spectrum. And so it's interesting, speculative romance. I'm like, that almost sounds like romantasy.
And my publisher actually has put me in romantasy boxes that they've sent out to influencers. So they sent out 5 books and I was included in there, like, here's your Simon Schuster romantasy. And I'm like, okay, like, sure. Like, I feel like you can kind of like spin it however you want. Like, there is a really strong romance arc. That's not what the book is about. So I'm all for it. Like, I read equal amounts of YA and romance.
When I go to look up books on places like Barnes and Noble or Amazon, and I'll think it's one thing, I'll look it up and it'll have that, but then it also has all these other tags. And I think that's one of the things that's changing with this online atmosphere, where you can say, in a physical bookstore, you have to put it on a single shelf and it's going
Yeah.
to be that fits the absolute best. But when you're online shelving, you can shelve it in multiple areas. It's one of these interesting shifts that I'm seeing happening.
Yeah. It's kind of fun now that people are reading the ARCs to go on Goodreads and see how they're shelving my book. That can help you also to market it to different audiences, right? So, and Soul Match, like the characters are 18 and 19, so it does have a lot of crossover appeal. I was very much reading a lot of like new adult stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll write new adult. And I had not thought about publishing this. I didn't realize that one, dystopian wasn't selling, and two, new adult wasn't selling. So I either had to push it into YA or adult, but now you're getting a lot more new adult traditional publishing deals too. So I'm curious to see how bookstores handle that, but like the Silver Elite that just came out, and Fourth Wing, like those are both new adult, and they've been huge runaway blockbuster hits. I could even say it's new adult, but I feel like even saying new adult, people expect a certain level of spice to it, which I don't have. I kind of like dialed it back to make it more YA.
Yeah, and new adult is always tricky because some agents are like, oh, it's still not a thing. And some people are like, oh, yes, it's definitely a thing. Yeah. So that's a hard one right now to still fit yourself into while you're marketing and shopping around.
Yeah.
That's kind of something I feel like people tag onto later.
Yeah, totally.
Well, speaking of bookstores, actually, one of the things that I loved about one of your videos that you made is when you went to go visit a bookstore. I think it was an indie bookstore, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Middleburg Books. Yeah.
Yes.
I love them.
Gosh, that is so exciting, because I think that is one of the best ways for authors to make connections with people who are reading your book and selling your book and things like that. So tell me how that experience was for you.
Well, so first of all, like I love booksellers. Like I just love book people in general. Anytime I show up at a library or bookstore or a book convention, I'm just like, oh, please like me because I already like you. You know, that sort of feeling. And then I get two in my head of like, don't say anything stupid, be chill. And then of course, like I came with a friend who's recording me. So you know you're on camera. So that's always a little awkward too. And they know they're on camera, and they knew I was coming, and they knew I would be recording material. So I didn't like just thrust it on them. I already knew them. Like it's my favorite indie bookstore. So I go there all the time, and I'm always talking to them when I'm there. And they knew my book was like being published soon and stuff. So we already had a relationship when I showed up. So when I got my ARCs from Simon Schuster, I was like, okay, I'm going to take one to Middleburg Books because they're so lovely. And I knew they would be doing my launch party. So they were just thrilled. And it was nice to see their reactions to the book, like, and holding it in their hands. And they were fighting over who got to read it first, like all that. So that was super cute. I'm in Northern Virginia, so we have a lot of metropolis in general, like suburbs, like, you know, all these great little towns everywhere. I drove to like 5 or 6 indie bookstores and just took them bookmarks. And 90% of the time, they were absolutely wonderful and so sweet and fun and charming. I did have one who kind of looked at me like, okay, who are you? Like, what do you want me to do with these bookmarks? That was really embarrassing. And I'm in a debut group, and we've all had similar experiences. For the most part, booksellers are just lovely. And then every now and then you'll get one that's like, why are you talking to me right now?
I hope that I will find a video of you, sneaking into Target and then signing your novel.
Totally. I'm totally doing covert missions. I mean, I love being a goofball in general. Like, I just feel like life is too stressful as it is. Have as much fun as you possibly can. So I think that would be freaking hilarious. Like, I just am already imagining how much giggling I would be doing. And I have to like think about which friend I'm going to take with me that wouldn't be like, she's over here, come get her, she's defiling books.
Rebecca, I have had so much fun talking to you today, and I wish that we could just talk all day long.
I know.
Oh my goodness. I have like 5 more questions that I even wanted to ask you, so maybe we'll have to talk offline somewhere. But if you are looking for more about Rebecca Danzenbaker, you can go to her website at RebeccaDanzenbakerBooks.com. You can follow her on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, or Pinterest at Rebecca Danzenbaker. That makes it easy. Or on Facebook or YouTube at Rebecca Danzenbaker Books. So all those will be in the notes for the show, so you can quickly go and find those links to find more about Rebecca. And thank you so much for joining us today.
That was so fun. I was so just like thankful that you guys invited me on. I was so excited when the invite hit my inbox. Like, it was just such an honor to speak with you both. I love you both. I love your show, and I am just so honored. Thank you very much.
We like to keep it short here on Tea and Tales. Get your pens back on paper and your fingers back on the keyboard.
And if you love what we're doing here and you love the guests that we have on and enjoy our community that we are creating, go follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads at Tea and Tales Podcast, and on TikTok and Twitter/X at Podcast Tea Tales. And go on that purple icon on your device and go give us 5 stars and comment and share, and just share how amazing Rebecca's novel is going to be, because it's going to come out very soon on the 29th of July 2025. So go get your pre-orders on Amazon or any platform that you want to go find your novels, and go to the bookstores and go find it there. And then, maybe you will be lucky and you would have signed a copy. Who knows? So help us and help Rebecca so that we can go up, 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 up to the top.
Happy writing.
Bye.